episode of Beards, Bourbon, and Whiskey. Of course, you got my man Bo in the building.
That's right.
And myself, man, the Hood, Howard Stern, Q Lewis, you know what I'm saying? But we're in here today, we're looking at something local, all right? So if you're not familiar, if this is your first time checking out the podcast, then you got to know that we're just two bearded guys talking about whiskeys and bourbons, all right? And we're not bourbon snobs yet. We're on our way though, and you're going to learn with us, all right? So we're on this together. So we've been talking about a few whiskeys. Then we got to a couple of bourbons. We haven't done scotch yet, but we're going to get to that. But today we're going to stay in the local area, not the Detroit area, but it is in Michigan. There's a distillery in Holland, Michigan. So salute to CopperCraft Distillery, which is the bourbon of choice today. All right, so if you can see that, it's a Kentucky, not a Kentucky, a straight bourbon. Obviously, it's not Kentucky because it's from Michigan. But yeah, CopperCraft Distillery. Now, the interesting thing about CopperCraft is that they have vodkas as well. Mm-hmm. All right, so this is a little bit different from most of the bourbons and whiskeys that we've discussed so far, because all they do is bourbon and whiskey. So this distillery actually does vodka as well. So tell the people, Bo, like how you came across this.
Actually, I just was kind of looking for something different, I guess, and was in the grocery store, and like I've heard of it on the radio, and whatnot.
Yeah, I've never even heard of
it. Yeah, like I've seen it out and about, I guess. Never really paid no attention. Yeah. And just caught my eye for some reason. Like I think the bottle, I like it, but it's kind of dope ass bottle.
Yeah, the bottle is kind of dope though.
So I think the bottle kind of caught my eye.
Yeah.
And I just started reading about it, and it's like, hey, give it a shot, man. You know, see what's up.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never heard of it, but after doing a little bit of research, it is a newer company, so it looks like
2012.
Yeah, 2012. So talking about 7 years, like maybe almost 8 years ago. So a fairly new distillery, owned by a family in Grand Rapids.
We're not gonna mention
a name that we won't mention. And I think they're from that Grand Rapids area, though.
Yeah,
I believe.
I think they own that whole side of the state. Seems like.
Right, definitely.
Some medieval type shit, you know.
Exactly. So if you're familiar with the family that we're speaking of, then we won't have to say their names. But anyway, we're going to move forward with this bourbon. Now, before we actually get into that, I did want to say this. Also, everything we've done to this point has been Kentucky and Tennessee, I believe. Mm-hmm. Other than the Irish whiskey, obviously. But everything before that has been, away from the northern hemisphere, I guess we'll call it. So this is going to be the first time.
Dixon line.
Exactly, right? We won't even get into that whole conversation, not yet, anyway. But so yeah, this is going to be the first northern distillery that we've actually done, and I'm kind of interested on what it's going to taste like. Before we even bust the bottle open, like, what do you think? What do you think? What are you expecting, I guess?
It's like, you said one of the interesting facts that, like, they do bourbon, they do vodka, they do gin. Yeah. They also do, like, mixed drinks, Oh,
right.
So I'm thinking it's going to be a little on the sweeter side, you know what I mean? If they do the mixed drinks, it's, maybe kind of a burn, right after nose and whatnot, but I'm thinking a little on the sweeter side.
On the sweeter side. Okay. That's a pretty good assumption, I guess, because obviously if you're doing vodkas and you're doing the mixed kind of drinks, then maybe that's their tendency, so it could be.
And they have a restaurant within their distillery, so maybe.
Right, you did mention that, yeah. So we'd actually be interested in visiting.
Check y'all out.
Right, I've never been to Holland, Michigan. I've never been anywhere remotely close to Holland.
Yeah, we'd be the first type of, what customers y'all probably not had, out there in Holland, Michigan, boy.
What are you saying?
And the tulips, that's Hope College area, right?
Are there no black people? And
the Flying Dutch. That's Hope, Holland, that's Hope College.
Wow, it is where Hope College is.
Yeah, the Flying Dutch.
There are definitely not black people there. So, you know what? Maybe we won't make it, but we will talk about it.
Y'all open up something around this way.
Right.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe we can break the mold, though. Maybe we can break the mold.
You got to be during the day, though, daytime. During the day.
Wow. All right, man. We gonna get off of that, man. We go ahead and bust the bottle open, though. We'll see what it's talking about, man. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the. Okay, man. I can't. Oh, all right. So shout out to the CopperCraft Distillery for real. I'm not gonna lie and say that I wouldn't be nervous about visiting Holland, Michigan.
Not without the rest of the football team with me.
Right. I would tell you the truth that is the case. I definitely not sure. And it's crazy that we even at that point still. I mean, all these years later.
2019, baby.
Right. That's what I do. I drink and know things.
Little Game of Thrones reference for my Game of Thrones fans out there.
Yeah, even though I don't know anything about that. It
Check
smells
it
a
out.
little sweeter. Salud.
Yeah. Salud.
Yeah.
It do smell a little sweeter. You know?
It smells sweeter. Oh, definitely sweeter.
Yeah. And it got that burn, like I said.
Wow.
Yeah.
You sure you ain't never had this before?
I ain't never had it. Never had it.
I'm not gonna lie though. Shit is good.
This is pretty
Shit
good.
is good. Shit is good. But yeah, you can definitely like even more so. Because last week we did. What did we do last week? Buffalo Trace. I'm saying before we had done Buffalo Trace.
Buffalo Trace.
Before,
Yeah.
And it had that sweetness to it.
Yeah.
But you can smell this off.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Almost smell like candy. Almost.
It's not like.
It's not a bad sweet though. Don't get me wrong.
It's not like Honey Jack.
Yeah.
No, it ain't nothing like that. You know what I mean?
need to have Honey Jack.
Yeah, it ain't like Honey Jack. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely not that, but definitely sweeter.
Got a little kind of a fruity, almost caramel type taste to it.
Oh, that's pretty nice though.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm kind of. Hey, you kind of know this shit, huh? It didn't make sense though because they make
the mixed drinks and all that vodka.
Yeah.
So I thought that'd be sweeter. Yeah.
This is something though. Like I think this is a difference though. I know we talked about the Buffalo Trace being a little sweeter, and I think that the sweetness that it has though is mixable. Like this sweetness though, I don't even think I can put anything in it. I think it's gonna become nasty though. Like I don't know what you can put in it to make it not nasty.
If you go back and you look at their website, I think it's kind of interesting that it does taste this way, right? Because most of the bourbons that we've been kind of talking about. It's a bourbon that you can drink neat, maybe on the rocks, ice cube or two, something like that.
Right.
If you look at their website and like what they're trying to do and kind of like the people in the ad and whatnot, I think they're trying to target that kind of young professional crowd. Okay. And now I don't think they're really into like. There's a few, but like really into like the bourbon like straight.
Yeah.
I think they wanted in those drinks. Like we were talking about earlier, there was something. They had ginger beer or some other stuff in it.
Right.
So I think they may be kind of targeting it for that type of like a mixed drink, maybe that type of niche, market, possibly. And I could be totally wrong too, but
I can see that.
But
I guess I seen it completely opposite though, which is weird. I see it as something that I don't want to mix it with nothing because I feel like it's so sweet.
Right.
But anything you put in it, it'll be like, well, yeah, you mean like a whole mixed drink, not just
no, not even that. Like I'm with you.
Yeah.
But. Judging it from your palate or my palate again, I feel you.
Right.
But looking at that, I don't know, and I guess I could be off base, but just looking at their website and the people that seems to be in their place.
Yeah,
I think, and it may be a different type of palate there.
Which I'm not mad at that because generally not vodkas, but bourbons and whiskeys have been, an old white man's drink.
Old white man. I totally get that.
So I'm not mad at them for trying to gear it towards a different genre. Especially a 2012 company. This is a fairly new company.
Right, yeah.
So, and this is this is pretty much our marketing aim too, or not marketing, but just our target area is to get some younger people involved in bourbons and whiskey. And I think maybe you are right. Like a taste like this probably would be better for not even just a newer bourbon drinker, but a younger crowd, a younger audience. Period. Yeah. I can agree with that though, but I can't lie to you though. This shit is really good. I like it though.
I drink it straight.
Yeah, for sure. I drink it straight. Now, the funny thing though is that you kind of came across this while looking, just looking through some bourbons and whiskeys, trying to figure out, what we're going to do next, and you decide you want to do something different. And this is completely different because to this point, most of the bourbons and whiskeys that you've come across or that you started out with came from the Army, right?
Yeah, it came from the Army. Your old traditional stand blue bloods, is what they call it, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, so this is definitely away from the box, man. And the crazy thing about this, though, is that it is a perfect segue to what we're talking about today, right? Because most of the things that you learn as far as bourbon and whiskeys came from the Army. But I'm curious. I'm curious, though, and this comes from like what's going on in today's world, everything from our economics to our politics, and in between there, obviously, is the military. And I'm just curious though, like you got a lot of bourbon and whiskey experience from the Army, you know what I'm saying? But what would you say is where do you think the military stands in the black community? Like that, like, is it, what would you recommend? I guess this is two different questions, right? So we'll go with the first one first. Like, where do you think the military stands in the black community? And also, after that, like, do you think that the military is not a necessary, but a real viable option for a black man, especially?
Man, that's just such a
I mean, it's a lot
question,
going in
right?
there. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
I'm gonna preface it by saying this, right? I don't believe there's any absolutes out there, right? You know, nothing's just black and white. You know, there's a lot of gray area, you know, and a lot of such things in life. So personally, like, right off rip, tear the Band-Aid off, like, young man came up to me, would you recommend me to join the Army? I'd say no. Okay. Young black man came up to me, and I'd say no. And I have a hard time, with that because I see what you can, you know, not only the pay, but I see the benefits and things like that from, and I'm still getting some of those benefits now, right? And I can kind of see how it's changed my life, you know, for the better.
Right.
It also kind of made me the person that, you know, a lot of people, a lot of white folks that I have known, you know, don't really speak with so much anymore, but had mentioned they kind of saw a change in me, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it was always, you know, it never, you know, like the social butterfly, but, you know, just, you know, cool with everybody.
Right.
And the more you start experiencing things and seeing situations with a certain type of folks, you know, start opening my eyes a little bit more, you know, and a lot of this happened when I was in the military.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I had some really good leaders in the military that weren't black, you know. Shout out to Captain Dougal. I know you're not a captain anymore, you're a major now.
Yeah. Salute.
Yeah, salute. He's a good dude. You know, that was my homeboy. Like, he was my boss, but like, could really just kick it with it on some man-to-man type shit,
Right,
you know.
right.
White dude, you know, all of that dude to this day. But outside of him, man, I saw a lot of kind of dirty, and not just with me, but like with soldiers, you know, enlisted. You know, I had the benefit of being a commissioned officer where I didn't see a lot of that. A lot of that they had to deal with.
Yeah.
Those privates, you know, those specialists, man, they need advocates for them, man, like, for real, because...
Damn, is that much of a disconnect?
Yes, man, because, like, the senior enlisted, you know, they'll kind of pass stuff as a rite of passage, or you got to learn, you got to go through this experience, and some of that's true.
Yeah.
But there's some things
almost like hazing to a certain
extent. Yeah, there's some things that young black soldiers are dealing with, man, that, like, don't even need to be out there. Yeah. You know, just like little microaggression type shit. Oh, is that too much for you, homeboy? You know, shit like that. You know, and like for the normal persons or whatever, like I would call my cats out on that. You know, excuse me, Sergeant, what was that? Blah blah blah. Then a lot of them, you know, I was a junior officer, so a lot of them try to get about it with you. Then, and then you got to be on your man-to-man shit. Like, okay, you know, if you want to play that game, you know,
don't let these strikes fool you.
Yeah, you play stupid games, you gonna win stupid prizes. You know what I'm saying? So,
yo, I like that.
Yeah, you know, but you know, it just kind of. That's what really opened my eyes to, like, just, man, even though you didn't sign on that dotted line and you are basically saying, hey, I'm joining this military. I know what I'm getting. You know, I know the benefits I'm going to get, things like that.
Right.
But at any point in time, y'all could say, I got to go to war, and I could possibly die. Right. You know, and I don't have a whole lot of say over that after I sign my paper.
It's a wrap.
Yeah. Sure. And that was kind of an eye opener for me. Like, a lot of the everyday rights that everyday, you know, civilian citizens have. When you join the military, some of those rights that you can't really speak out on things or do certain things anymore because you are in the military.
Because you are, you part of this shit. Yeah.
Like, yes, you can change your life for the better. Yeah, I know that's a long answer, but it's a very complex, you know. But overall, man, I would say, you know, knowing what I know now, I would not recommend it. You know? But I can understand it. You know what I mean? I can understand it.
And the crazy thing about that, though, is that, like, you know, I from the previous generation, I have, you know, family members and friends family members who were, you know, in Vietnam, and I don't think there's been a person yet, I could be wrong, but there is a person yet that I know that went to Vietnam that recommends the Army. Like, for real. It's like, I don't know if Vietnam was like the worst fucking war on earth, but definitely it gets the worst response. And I think with that being said, we get to a point where it's almost been instilled in us that the Army just not the way to go for black men. And I think I guess my question with that is, what do you think really has to change about the military for it to be like a real viable option for the black community? And I ask that because I think we're in the same situation with police officers. We do so much belittling of the police department that black people don't want to be the police. And if the black people ain't never the police, how do we actually change things for black people? So I guess that same question is warranted for the military. Like, what has to change in the military for it to be a better place for black people?
Yeah, there's so I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about that too. So, the military is seen as something being respected. Something being like a almost like a what with some families like a status thing, right?
Prestige.
Whereas in the black community, it's still like that with some people. Yeah. But then you look at the police and it's like, man, the police, man, we can't mess with them.
Exactly.
This, blah blah blah.
Exactly.
And so, and I know the military and the police are not essentially the same thing, right? Like I get that.
Close enough, especially these days.
Well, we use the military kind of like as the police of other nations and whatnot. Yeah, I can see it from that aspect. But in the United States, we really, as of right now, you never know what's gonna happen with this fool in office. But we don't have to worry about walking down the street and having the military, pulling you over, bashing your head and shit like they do in other countries or whatnot, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
But what has to happen? I think it's deeper than just what has to happen in the military, man. I think it's really deeper what has to happen in society, and because I look at the reasons why I joined. I wanted to go back to school,
right,
and I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And so, the only option I had at the time, without taking out more loans or whatever,
right, exactly,
was to go to the military.
Yeah.
And I did that. You know what I mean?
There's a means to an end.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And they got me. The degree I was looking for.
And I think this is what makes the military so much like what do I want to? I'm trying to see what I want to use an analogy for. It's kind of like, it's almost like school too, right? So military to me is kind of like school in the aspect of it may not be the best thing for you, but you're using it as a means to an end. So a lot of people go to school because they figure it's going to get you to point A or whatever.
Sacrifice to get whatever back on them back in. Yeah.
So I guess I can kind of see it that way. And I think just like when you're taking out loans or when you're going to school, the same thing I mentioned in a previous show is that you better have a plan. Like if you go into the military without a plan, that's the easy way to you're being used regardless. Mm-hmm. All right, let's just look at it that way. You're being used regardless, but you better at least be getting something out of it. I mean, that's the way I feel.
And that's what I tell. I used to tell all my, and if I was still active duty, I'd probably get in trouble for this. But like all my young black, soldiers and officers and whatnot, and some of my younger peers for that matter. Like, hey, bro, there's gonna be this fake stigma out there that if you take care, if you pay attention to yourself, that's wrong. It's always gonna be about the unit and this and that. And there's some truth to that, right? Yeah. But at the same time, to have a healthy unit, you got to have a healthy individual too, right? That.
Oh, yeah,
So I just make sure they know, hey, the military is going to take everything they can from you, right? Mm-hmm. On the back end, you got to get everything you can from it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So when you have that little stigma out there where it's, officers don't do this or sick calls or blah, blah, blah. If you feel you're injured or something like that, you go have it looked at, have it documented. Yeah. Because when it comes to that time to where you either retire or you separate or whatever, and you got to go to the VA, you got to get disability or whatnot. Exactly. They're going to want that evidence, and it's not documented. It's going to be like it never happened.
Right.
True. So you got to just make sure that whatever, and if you don't know, ask a question. It's better to put the work into it, to kind of research and see. Okay, I might qualify for this, or I might be able to do this, and someone be telling you no, then never even looking into it, and you could have been using it for however long.
Exactly.
I mean, So you go into it, have a plan. I had a plan. I went into it. Yeah, I wanted to get some money to get my degree. Served out the time I needed to start to do that, and I moved on.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's the way I look at it too. So I don't necessarily. Well, I won't say it's a bad thing. All right. So first of all, let me say that I won't say going to the military is a bad thing, but I think to piggyback on something you said a moment ago, is that it ain't nothing really inside the military that you can change to make it more acceptable for the black community. The community and the society we live in has to change. And what I mean by that is that you're talking about, and it's not only just black people, this is the military, how they use people in general. I mean, you expect people, you come in to the military, and it may or may not be wartime. I mean, looking at the way the situations are now, it seems like it's always going to be some kind of violent situation. But like you get there, they train you on how to do these things, which aren't societal things, basically. Like, you learn to kill people, you learn how to live off the land. Like, that shit you should probably learn for real though. But not the killing people part.
You learn survival.
But they train you for things like that, and then they send you back into a community that, two things, they don't know how to accept you, and then secondly, they don't know what to do with you. Because you get back here and you're supposed to be a normal citizen. And what's normal about being in active duty? There's nothing normal about that.
For those that they getting deployed and things like that, and even for some of those that haven't, some of the things they've had to go through. When you have a thing that only 1% of the population really has ever done,
exactly.
There ain't gonna be a whole lot normal about that.
And nothing normal about it. But then you get here and you're supposed to be normal, and then not only do people think you're supposed to be normal, but they don't know what to do with you when you're not. Mm-hmm. And just in case you didn't know, that is the epitome of being a black person.
And I want to throw this out there too, right? Yeah. Like I said, I would not recommend it, to a young black man. Mm-hmm. And I still say that, but I guess the difference is this: like, there's some things that I wouldn't recommend, like I would not let you do. Yeah. You know what I mean? If somebody, young black man came to me like, hey, this is what this is my goal. I asked him a few questions. What are some of the other alternatives, avenues that you looked at to get to that goal? Right. And if it's not viable for them, and they come down to like this is what I need to do, then like I got you. I feel like I respect that. Do what you need to do. Like I understand that. Yeah. So like I said, and within the military, obviously, it's got to be more people that look like us in leadership positions. Sure. A lot of those old military stigmas and those paradigms need to shift, man. There's people, want to come out and say, we're, anti, we're inclusive and we're diverse and we're this and we're that. One thing the military also says is that, we're very tough on, sexual offenders and, proactive about teaching education, and they do those things. Right. But guess what the military still has? Right. An issue with sexual offenders. Right. Right. So even though you do those things, there are still those elements that exist deeper down that need to be addressed. Exactly. That sometimes get just swept out under the rug.
Yeah. Now, when you say there's a disconnect, obviously, between like leadership and like privates. And then you also say that there needs to be more black people in those leadership positions. What do you think is stopping that from happening? Like, are black people not qualified, or they just don't want to be? Like, they don't want to be there.
No, I'm not going to say they're not qualified. Yeah. A lot of it, I really can't speak too much on the enlisted side of it, right? Right. I didn't spend a whole lot of time being an enlisted, soldier. Yeah. From the commission side, though, it's basically now, if you have a college degree, you can go to OCS. Okay. Where, it's basically 12-week school, ramped up, fast forward to, how to become an officer and all that other type of stuff. Okay. From a very high level. Yeah. Then the cats that do the ROTC and kind of, I don't want to say elitist, because there's some people for some very humble, meager beginnings that go to West Point, but because I talk about changing stigmas and stuff right there, right? Because the stigma about West Point is that they're all elitist,
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's totally not true.
Yeah. Even as civilians know that. Yeah. Or we believe that, right? I don't know if it's true.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not.
It's not far off.
No. I'm saying I don't think it's true at all, because I've met some West Pointers that have been like, they came from like, for real, like came from nothing. Like they just happen to be about their business. Right. And like I respect that.
For sure.
But one of the things though that like I said, that really needs to change is some of that middle leadership, man. Okay. And what I mean by that is some of the junior to almost senior NCOs, so your sergeants, your E5s, your E6s, your staff sergeants, your E6s, and really at the officer level, at the lieutenant levels. But for the most part, 90% of your lieutenants, if you got a strong platoon sergeant, he's gonna be running that unit anyway. Right. The lieutenant is merely there just to kind of sign off on things, right?
I got you.
unless you have a strong lieutenant. Yeah. And then really where that change comes in when you make captain, you got to get command under you. Now you start to make decisions that affect other people's lives and stuff.
Right.
And just being inclusive of all of the, can I say, the different situations that are out there, right? Okay.
Different situations. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, because you could have
words to say.
Because I really looked into this, man, because I was really curious about how this worked. And you look at your soldiers of the months, your soldiers of the weeks, and stuff like that. You look at their backgrounds, and your typical like all-American boys. Yeah. And then you look at like some of your disciplinary issues and whatnot. And typically, it's your young black males. Okay. So why is that? Because white folks just aren't better than black folks. Right, black folks just aren't more, so what's going on there? Yeah, some of that's personal responsibility. Yeah. But other times, a lot of that is what things are being interpreted. And what are these kids going through to get them to that point? True. And that's never addressed, at least in my experience, within the military.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and that's something, man, how hard would that be to change, though? I mean, that's...
Super hard. Super hard. Because you think about the military, it's old. It's all these traditions, and that's what it's built on, is traditions, how things used to be. Yeah. And things work well, at least according to their, what a good is, or what will is, success is, under those traditions. So.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, I don't want to sound like a pessimist, because usually I'm an optimist, but it don't really sound like much is going to change in the military. So I think what has to happen maybe is maybe a change of perspective, I guess. So I guess maybe if we can identify the good in the military, then maybe more black people would be inclined to not only be soldiers, but to be, officers and that nature. I think once you get some black people in leadership, then hopefully that'll help change some of the attitude in there.
Yeah, but within those ranks, I think it's got to be leadership that looks like us, and come from places we come from. Right. And I grabbed my phone, and I pulled this up because this is something I still refer to today, for some guidance on some things. Okay. And it's just a private group on Facebook, African American Army officers. Okay. And it's like over 10,000 members. Wow. So. Typically, you go out there, you put a situation out there, you kind of, maybe a hypothetical or whatever, a couple courses of action or whatever, and you just get some feedback, some thought.
Yeah, it's like a support group.
Yeah.
Shit, that's dope.
And it's still respect. You still, you just, it ain't no, it's all professional, straight professional. Okay. And I've made some close contacts within that group and whatnot. Yeah. And like I said, I've been out of the military since 2015. Okay. And still kind of refer to this at least on a weekly basis. Right. Just for some guidance on things. So, you got people like that putting out, making policy and affecting policy. I think it may start to change.
I got you. I mean, that's a serious thing. I don't think people understand how important that is. Only because, like, if you think about it, you think about the amount of money that the government spends on defense. You know what I'm saying? And the military, like
more than educating you, more than feeding you.
Exactly. So you figure if they put that much emphasis on it, why wouldn't there be more emphasis on getting it right for people? You know what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't you want to make it the best it can be when you spend? Obviously, it's important because you're spending this kind of money on it.
And I think the only rebuttal to that is that each service, and again, we're going to fall back on the tradition thing. Okay. So each service is kind of has their thing, what they're known for. Like Marines, people think they're tough and blah, blah, blah. And like, they're tough and whatnot, but they ain't nothing. That's just their reputation. Like, I know whooped on plenty of a Marine out there, especially in Korea, bro.
Just to let y'all know.
Come on with me, though. Just in case y'all didn't forgot. But the Army is kind of just known as like it's the biggest branch. So like you may have a couple meatheads and whatever and the Navy people know it is like, hey, I get to travel a lot of places. Yeah. And the Air Force is kind of known, keep it really real, as the easiest. And I don't want to say, I'm not going to classify. I'm not trying to because anybody's service. You sign on that dotted line. You get respect from me, homeboy. Homegirl, for real.
You're doing something for a different life. Something that I can't lie to you, dog. I can't do it. Like I can't.
It takes a lot, man. For real. That's why 1% of the population. Yeah. But real quick, what I was getting at is that each service knows those kind of monikers they're known for, right? And it's because of certain traditions that you know in their history. Right. So they stick to those traditions so hard. This is what we want to be known as. Yeah. And as the Air Force spends more money on complete soldier or they call it airmen, complete airman fitness, and like as far as physical, mental, like each airman has like an associate's degree coming out of tech school or something like that. Okay. Like they really put a lot of money into this, their living quarters, what they eat. Whereas the other services really don't, because they want to be known as tough and this and that. Right. So there is some control they have within each service to kind of balance that. But they want to be known as, hey, in the 1800s we did this. Right. It's 2019 though, homeboy.
2019. Right. Yeah, I mean it's just I don't know. It's just it's a stigma. Yeah. I mean, definitely that needs to be changed along with the actual behavior in the military. And there's a stigma again, like I said, because my experience with the military or armed forces or enlisting period were given to me from my old man, my homie's old man, uncles and things of that nature who went to Vietnam. Mm-hmm. So obviously my perception of war and the army and everything was completely it was hit. It was screwed like from the beginning. Like and I think that perspective has to change more along the lines of like I think where you put it, because like back in the day, my old man told me, he didn't tell me like it's a bad idea or you better have a plan when you go. He said don't go, it's the worst thing ever. Mm-hmm. Right? So at least now you get to the point where we're at a point where some of us went to the military with a with a plan.
Right.
And it worked out for what you needed to work out for. And you roll with that, so you get to tell the next generation down, like, you know what, mm-hmm. I wouldn't suggest it, but if you do, make sure you do A, B, and C, right? So it is an option for you. It may not be the best option in my eyes, but you get to make the decision.
There,
But before it was just like, bruh, don't do it, like don't mess around.
And, and I totally agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Because you look at some of those Vietnam, if you going back even further, like some of the cats came World War II and like treated like total shit. Yes. Like that was one of the biggest like propaganda machines in the German army, was going to like the black soldiers like, hey, why are you doing this for a country that's going to treat you like shit when you go back, right?
And as much as it was propaganda,
it's the truth.
It's all facts.
Yeah.
It's all
And
facts.
So like, how do you recommend for somebody to go join some shit like that,
Exactly, yeah.
And so as they're, in Vietnam, it was a little better, but not much better. Motherfuckers still getting strung out and shit like that, Yeah. And like now, it's getting to a point where I think they're really putting some attention on like, this has to do with more everybody, but like mental health and shit like that. Yeah. It was kind of filtering down where, whereas I should classify, all these black soldiers, mm-hmm. maybe I kind of need to identify with them a little bit more. Yeah. So at least I would say, listen, it's definitely not there yet, mm-hmm. but at least, that's on the radar somewhere now. Yeah. Whereas 20 years ago, it wasn't even out there.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't even out in the atmosphere like that. But you're right about the differences between World War II. I just want to go back to that real quick. Probably a little worse, obviously, in World War II, and a little different in Vietnam, but kind of still the same, though. You figure people was coming back from Vietnam, 65, 67, somewhere in there. Like, people started filtering back to the crib. You just got to realize that, in 1960, right? We was just talking about this on my other show about the integration of schools down south, right? Obviously that didn't go smooth, so I mean you talking about in the 60s
wasn't the best project,
right? That wasn't the best project, but in the 60s though, you were still dealing with stuff like that. So yeah, you going over here fighting Vietnamese people who probably in a worse position than we are.
Like Muhammad Ali said it, man.
Right. But then they get over there, and my old man told me this too. He was like, there's been times where they probably should have been killed. Mm-hmm. But these people who live in lesser conditions recognized that our situation was so hit that they was letting people go.
Yep.
They was like, oh, no, y'all good. We waiting on the white man. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they know that, bruh, you worse off than us. That's how they looking at us. Like, they like, wow, you know what I'm saying? Y'all worse than us, man. Get out of here.
All right, damn, homeboy.
No, for real.
That way.
But it's crazy that people outside of here recognize that, dog, and the people who live here act like it don't exist. How is that even possible? Like, and this is a whole nother conversation, I guess. But I mean, I gotta ask it.
I don't know, man. Like, you talking about that?
Yes, I said ask. I said ask it.
You talking about that integration shit, and like we kind of talked about last time was, well, I brought up maybe the point that integration is kind of looked at as this big this goal of what what right is and it's white and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? How do I want to say this, man?
Right, you gotta figure out how to say it.
Yeah, it's to make a long story short, man. It just, I don't know. It's just got to come from us, like to say it in the safest way, I guess. You know, we have to start building our own support networks and things like that, man. You know, I don't know. It's just so frustrating. Almost, I really can't articulate it, man.
Right.
Just like. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
I don't know, man.
Right. And I think that's the reason we're in the situation we are. Don't nobody know.
Yeah.
We don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah. People just want to be on that, hey, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And, and I get some of that, you know. Yeah. But then they don't want to recognize the fact that, like, what happened, you know, to your ancestors, and not even your ancestors, your grandma, your grandpa,
right,
you know,
not even ancestors,
like
previous
that still affects your life, you know, right now, you know, definitely, you know, as far as financial literacy, like we was just talking about a little bit ago off camera, it's like, you know, hey, we the first generation to really experience these type of things.
Right, using words like equity.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not, right. Like, and it's funny. Like you may look at it as funny now. A lot of people went and got education, and it seemed normal, but. You know that we did come from an era where words like equity, words like financial literacy wasn't even a thing. Like, I had never heard the term financial literacy.
Like you said, you know, I heard you talking about your old man. My dad is the same way. Yeah. You know, pay cash for everything.
Pay cash for everything. Don't use no credit.
There you go. Yeah.
So now, like he letting you know that he knows that credit can get you messed up if you don't use it correctly.
Correctly, yeah.
But he never shows you how to use it correctly because he never used it. You know what I'm saying? So you get in that situation where you never learn, and then people try to hip you to the game, and then you still end up owing $1,000 for like 4 Domino's pizzas that you ordered at Eastern University. But anyway, that's
and you know, some white folks, I always got to say some white folks, you know, they just are, I kind of liken it to Trump supporters. Trump supporters don't want, like, they know the truth and they see the truth and they witness it every day, but will never acknowledge it. Like, like that man is freaking an idiot and he's evil, really, right? Yeah. And some of white America is like that. You know, they look at it as, dude, that shit happened like almost 200 years ago, blah, 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 whatever. Get over it. Yeah. We just, you know, it's 2019. And, like, they just don't acknowledge it or refuse to understand that a lot of the shit that happened prior really affects who we are. Right. You know what I mean?
And when you say, and I got to go all the way back to that term because I really hate that term, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. The reality of it is that, yes, we all have the capability of doing that. Although some of those bootstraps are made of leather, some of those are made of spaghetti strings. You know what I'm saying? So we often have spaghetti strings. So we trying to pull ourselves up, but it keeps snapping. Everybody don't have leather straps. Right, or you slip it off. Right.
I thought I had that.
So everybody don't have leather bootstraps, and that's the thing. Like, yes, you are able to pull yourself up if the support system is what it should be, but the support system ain't always what it should be. And again, I know that when black people, when we talk about things like that, it sounds like we whining.
You know, well, it's not like we're whining. I'm gonna say this. This morning, I got speeding ticket in my pocket right now, right? Mm-hmm. And if you speed, like, yeah, I get that. You know, you get caught, you got to pay the fine, all that good stuff. Got pulled over going to 77 and to 70, right? 7 over. Mm-hmm. Everybody and their mama do 70, at least 77 down 94, right?
And you gonna get the 5 over.
Yeah.
And usually it's 5 over that let you go.
And I'm in a black Ford Explorer, right? You know, in the middle lane,
inconspicuous.
Yeah,
like a family
you know, just chilling. You know what I mean?
Looking like you take a little Bobby to his dentist appointment.
And I hate to say this, but like you said, you know, hey, 2 + 2 is 4, right? Yeah. You know, this old ass white dude come up to the door, and like I tell him right away, hey, dude, you know, I'm a certified, you know, pistol license. You know, I have, you know, my pistol in the car down by my ankle, and I see him, his eyes get that big, and all of a sudden that tell me like, dog, don't make a move, don't do nothing. This motherfucker scared as hell right now.
Right, exactly.
Right. So when that shit happens to you, like you just trying to go somewhere in a Ford Explorer and shit like that, then you come holler at me.
Right.
Like when you got to worry about your life and shit, like just doing 77 into 70, something ain't right, cuz. Like, in 2019, something fucked up, for real.
Yeah. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Yeah, but no, now this is a whole nother subject, which we're going to save that for a different show. But the fact is that when you're a trained police officer at this point, I know it's scary. Like, you know what? Some stuff I'm not going to do. I'm not willing to do because I know that I may react like I would because I'm from the 48205. Like, I may be like that, so possibly I'm not a good candidate to be a police officer. But I just feel like if you train to be a police officer, and at this point, carrying is legal. Especially if you in Michigan, you know that it's legal. So you know that there's a possibility that anybody you stop, the 35-year-old soccer mom or the 19-year-old dude who looked like he just got off a rap video and shit, right? I'm just saying, right? Mm-hmm. Any of these people, the 65-year-old grandma, she can be strapped because it's legal. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, like, if you're not prepared to deal with everybody the same, like, I know it's probably easier said than done. But if you're an old police officer, you've been doing this for a while. You should be all right. You know what I'm saying? I shouldn't feel like, damn, he done got scared. Like,
exactly.
I shouldn't feel like that. If you get scared, you should be able to control it to a point where, like, I can't tell. Because this is just like, dog, I use this reference all the time, dog. When I ride an airplane, dog, I always get the front seat. Always, because when shit happen on the plane and you get the bumping and shit, I look directly at the stewardess, right? I look at the flight attendant because when she get nervous, then I know we going down. You know what I'm saying? So this is just like the police, right? Mm-hmm. If I look at you and you scared, I know something about to go wrong. Because if you scared, it's fucked up. Because when you hit the lights, I got scared. Yeah. Because I'm black. So as soon as you hit the lights, I got scared.
Yeah, because my life is in danger right now. Like, you know what I mean? Right now.
People really don't. I swear, we're going to do a whole another show on that. Actually,
his eyes literally got that big, and they're just like,
that's not what you want to see.
I'm keeping my hands right, like, for real, cuz. Do what you need to do, man.
Exactly. That's not what you want to see. Yeah. Just like when you look at the stewardess and her eyes bug out, it's not what you want to see, bro. Yo, so
and you shouldn't have to worry about shit like that on a day-to-day basis, right? Yeah, you should not have to worry about that.
I mean, that's the point of being black in America and in the military, apparently. Yeah. Right. Yo, so just to slide back to the bourbon so we can get up out of here, man. Now, like I said, this is one of the bourbons that one of the only bourbons to this point that we actually tried that wasn't first tried by you in the military. So, what do you think?
I like it, man. Yeah. It's good. You know, I buy it. I ain't really talking about price point. Okay. I think it was like it's like $39, $40.
$40.
I mean, it's a little. I mean, I don't want to say higher end, but a little more than some of the bourbons we had on here already.
Yeah.
But you know, I drink it again. You know. Yeah.
So shout out to CopperCraft, man. We may never make it to Holland, Michigan, but we are certainly giving you a shout out because you know, for lack of a better term, the shit is good.
Yeah, it is good.
So it was ranked in Michigan as the #1 whiskey, also ranked in Metro Times. So they weren't lying. It's pretty good. Like I have to admit, and it's crazy because some of the other bourbons and whiskeys that we've done so far, I've actually already had. This is one that I haven't had, and then I know probably next week or in a few weeks we'll do Russell Reserve. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is. I was surprised, and what I'm even more surprised though is that you knew it was gonna be sweet. I kind of think that you had some of this.
No, I swear, this is the first time I ever had something.
I mean, you called it off rip though, because when I first smelled it, I'm like, oh, this is sweet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like not a fruity sweet, not a candy sweet.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's not honey jack sweet. Okay,
here we go.
Not honey jack sweet.
Yeah. So I'm gonna refresh this a little bit so we can toast on the way out of here.
Definitely.
Don't forget, man, if you are checking us out for the first time, or if this is your 5th time. It doesn't matter. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube station. Also, follow us on IG and on Facebook. So on IG, you're just going to hit Beers, Bourbon, Whiskey. And then on Facebook, it's going to be the Beers, Bourbon, Whiskey podcast. All right. So make sure you follow us there on Facebook and Instagram. And actually follow CopperCraft Distillery as well.
So check them out.
Yep, check them out. They're on Instagram. I couldn't find them on Facebook, but they are on Instagram. So make sure you follow them and check this out. It's a pretty good bourbon though, actually. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is my first bourbon that wasn't from Tennessee or Tennessee or whiskey. Yeah. So you see, it's pretty potent too. Wasn't from Tennessee or Kentucky. So this is a good change. I did have a bourbon from DC. It's called Filibuster. It was a local brand.
They got the political terms out
Political
there.
terms, right.
Filibuster.
But yo, it was great. If I can get my hands on a bottle of that, I might see if I can order one or something, because it was actually really good. And, it was, DC. I haven't seen any here, so like it's probably on that Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find it, because it was really good too.
Oh, I forgot. I think I sent you a picture, but I got me a bottle of Rock Hill Farms. Though.
Yeah, you showed it.
If y'all don't know Rock Hill Farms, if you can find it, go out there and see if you can see. It might cost you upwards of about $120 a bottle or so. It's so hard to find.
That bottle looks elegant.
Dog,
when I see the bottle, I'm like, okay, that's fancy.
Hey, I don't know when I'm cracking it. Maybe
special
occasions. Maybe when I get my firstborn.
I was just gonna say, you might want to say that for that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and finish this bottle, and I want to thank everybody who checked us out today. Also, don't forget, please leave comments below and we will respond. We are live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you don't catch the live show, you can always go to www.eblockradio.com. But to the next time, man, this is Beers, Bourbon, and Whiskey. And it's my boy Bo holding it down.
I say.
With this good ass
CopperCraft.
Yeah, this shit good though. And your boy, man, Q Lewis, man. We are representing from the 48205. Don't ever forget that. Black Bourbon Society. Holla at us though. For real. Salute.
Hey.